audible? Hello, good afternoon. Am I audible? Hello. Okay. Okay, let me start with the fourth chapter. Today I will be starting with the fourth chapter. Okay. The previous chapter are all in your Bardhaman Model School e-portal and YouTube. We will find Discovering Tat, the saga continues, and 11 and the next point, the Lavender top already I have done. So you can view over there, have a view over there. So today I will be starting with chapter number 4, Landscape of the Soul. Okay, just follow the book, Landscape of the Soul. So this story is actually, the story is all about art form, is all about painting. Okay, so the story revolves around the art of painting through the help of various stories. We will get two stories here. One is the story related with Chinese painting, another one is the story related with European painting. Okay, so in this chapter the writer contrasts between two forms of art. Okay, in this story the writer contrasts between two forms of art. Okay, two forms of painting. One is the Chinese art, another one is the European art. Okay, there are two types of painting, Chinese painting and European painting. We will study in this chapter. A wonderful old tale is told about the painter Wu Daozi. So Wu Daozi was a Chinese painter who lived in the 8th century. Okay, and we will just listen a story about Wu Daozi. His last painting was a landscape commissioned by Tang Emperor Zhuangzong. So Wu Daozi was a painter and he was assigned a work by Tang Emperor Zhuangzong. So King Zhuangzong had given a work to Wu Daozi. What was that work? To decorate a palace wall. What he has to do? He had to decorate a palace wall. The master had hidden his work behind a screen. So the Chinese painter Wu Daozi had hidden his painting behind a screen. Why? Because only the emperor would see it. So for whom he was painting? For the emperor he was painting, and he had just covered the painting with a screen so that only the emperor could see his painting. For a long while the emperor admired the wonderful scene. So when the emperor was called to look at that painting, to look at that landscape, he admired his painting a lot. He admired many things which were depicted in that painting. What were those things? The wonderful scene, discovering forest, high mountains, waterfall, cloud floating in an immense sky, men on hilly paths, birds in flight. So these are the things, the things in the painting, and King Emperor Zhuangzong admired all these things in the painting. Look, sir, said the painter, in this cave at the foot of the mountain dwells a spirit. So what he has said to the king, the painter told the king that there is a cave at the foot of the mountain, and this cave he made him paint like this way that it is compared with a living thing. Okay, the cave is painted in such a way as we can compare it with a living thing. So it is a live cave. Okay, the painter clapped his hands and the entrance to the cave opened. So what happened? The painter, when he clapped his hand, the cave which has been painted on the wall, it has just opened. The entrance to the cave opened. The inside is splendid. So the inside of the cave painting, it was wonderful, it was splendid, beyond anything words can convey. So it is beyond any description. His painting is beyond any words, beyond any description. please let me show you the majesty the way. So after that, Wu Daozi asked him to show him all in the way towards the cave. Okay, he wanted to show the king the way towards the cave. The painter entered the cave. So the cave opened and the painter entered the cave, but the entrance closed behind him. What happened? Whenever the painter Wu Daozi entered the cave, during that time the entrance of the cave closed behind him. And before the astonished emperor could move or utter a word, before the king could do anything or could able to speak out anything, the painting had vanished from the wall. So what happened? The emperor saw, as soon as the painter Wu Daozi entered into the cave and the cave again closed behind him, during that time he found there was no painting on the wall. It has been vanished. Not a trace of Wu Daozi's brush was left, not a stain of painting was left on the wall, and the artist was never seen again in this wall. And after that, Wu Daozi, the famous painter, he was never seen again in this world. Okay? So such stories played an important part in China's classical education. So this type of stories played an important role in the classical education of China. The books of Confucius and Zhuangzi are full of them. That means the books of Confucius and Zhuangzi are full of such stories. They help the master to guide his disciple in the right direction. So from these stories, it could help the master to help his disciple, his followers, to guide his disciples or followers in the right direction. Beyond the anecdote means a short interesting story about of a real person. Okay, a short interesting story of a real person is called anecdote. So they are deeply revealing of the spirit in which art was considered. So this type of stories were considered that it is just like the art. These stories are just like the art form. Contrast this story or another famous one about a painter who would not draw the eye of a dragon he had painted for fear it would fly out of the painting, with an old story from my native Flanders that I find most representative of the Western painting. So what happened? There was another famous story in contrast to this previous story. Okay, so here a painter who would not try to draw the eye of a dragon. He was a painter, but why he did not want to draw or paint the eye of a dragon? Because he was afraid that the dragon would fly out of the painting if he would draw the eye of the dragon. So it was a story which came from the medieval country in Western Europe. Flanders means a part of a medieval country in Western Europe. So this story is famous in medieval country in Western Europe. In 15th century, Antwerp, a master blacksmith called Quintin fell in love with a painter's daughter. So what happened during 15th century? This is another story. In 15th century, in Antwerp. Where is Antwerp? Actually, Antwerp is a city of northern Belgium. Okay, so during the 15th century, city of northern Belgium, in the city of northern Belgium named Antwerp, a blacksmith, a master blacksmith named Quintin Metzi. His name was Quintin Metzi, and he used to live in the northern part of Belgium, and he fell in love with a painter's daughter. So he had fallen in love with a daughter of a painter. The father would not accept a son-in-law in such a profession, but the painter did not accept their relationship. Why? Because Quintin Metzi, he belonged from a different profession. He belonged from a blacksmith's family. Okay, he was a blacksmith. Okay, his profession was a blacksmith. So he had not accepted their relationship. So Quintin sneaked into the painter's studio. What he had done after that, when the painter did not accept the relationship, Quintin Metzi, he just moved stealthily into the studio of that painter, okay, and painted a fly on his latest panel. And what he had done, he had drawn a fly with such delicate realism that the master tried to swat it away before he realized what had happened. So the quality of the art, the painting of a fly, it was so real that the master could not able to realize that it was a painting. He thought it was a real one, and he tried to hit it hard, because he realized, after that he realized that the painting was a painting, and the painting seemed to be just like the real one, okay. So after that, what happened? Quintin was immediately admitted as an apprentice to his studio. Apprentice means trainee, or you can say learner. So Quintin was immediately accepted as a trainee or a learner into his studio. He married his beloved. After that, he just got married with the painter's daughter, and went to become one of the most famous painters of his age. And after that, he became one of the most famous painter of his age. These stories illustrate what each form is trying to achieve. So we can contrast between two stories, okay. A perfect illusionist likeness in Europe. So you can find a perfect art form, or you can find an illusion which just created to resemble to something, okay. Illusionist likeness means an illusion which is created to resemble to something, okay. So the European art is perfect. It has illusionistic resemblance and the essence of inner life and spirit in Asia and European, and in Asian painting you can see the art form it has the essence of inner life and spirit, okay. So the art is given a life. So in this Chinese story, the emperor commissions a painting and appreciates its outer appearance. So what Wu Daozi had done? Wu Daozi had painted the wall, the palace wall, which had been assigned by the king, okay. But whenever the king went to see that painting, he just he just praised the outer appearance of the painting. But the artist reveals to him the true meaning of his work. But the artist tried to reveal his true meaning of his work through that painting. The emperor may rule over the territory which he has conquered, but only the artist knows the way within. So the emperor can rule a country, okay, but the artist knows the way within. That the king did not know the way within, how to just paint something, or how to do, or how to create an art form. Let me show the way, the Tao, a word that means both the path or the method and the mysterious works of the universe. So the work was mysterious. The work drawn by the Chinese painter, it was mysterious, and Tao means, which means something which has both the path, okay. The painting is gone, but the artist has reached his goal beyond any material appearance. So the painting has vanished, but the work was mysterious, and the actual motive of the painter was fulfilled, because some work, because that work, that special work is beyond the material appearance, okay. It has some lively feeling, okay. So here the author wanted to say, though the painting had been vanished afterwards, but the motive of the painter was fulfilled. Why? Because some work, some Chinese work is beyond material appearance. A classical Chinese landscape is not meant to reproduce an actual view, as would a Western figurative painting. So you can see a classical Chinese landscape is not made with a real viewpoint, whereas in Western painting you can see that Western painting is a figurative art form. This means figurative painting means metamorphic representation of the art. Okay, whereas the European painter wants you to borrow his eyes and look at a particular landscape. So what was the actual motive of the European painter? The European painter wants to attract the viewers towards a particular landscape exactly as he saw it from a specific angle, as he used to paint to show you in a specific scene. Okay, so the European painters wanted to attract our views, but the Chinese painter does not choose a single viewpoint. His landscape is not a real one. So the Chinese painter, it does not choose a real viewpoint, okay, and you can enter it from any point, then travel in it. So you can travel through this painting with the help of your imagination, with the help of your thoughts, okay, which would take you in different sides. But you can see that artist creates a path from your eyes to travel up and down, then back again in a leisurely movement. So the Chinese art form wants you to travel by creating your own imaginations, and then you can come back again in a relaxed movement. So what did the Chinese artist wants us? The Chinese artist wants us to travel through the painting by our own creativity, by our own imagination, by our own thought. So we can travel through the painting, and again we can return back in a very relaxed movement. This is even more true in the case of the horizontal scroll. So now we will see what is the meaning of horizontal scroll. It is actually in which the action of slowly opening one section of the painting, then rolling it up to move on to the other, adds a dimension of time which is unknown in any other form of painting. So horizontal scroll is a form of painting where one section of the painting is opened one by one, rolling up to others, move to the others, and it creates a dimension of time which is not practiced in any other form of painting. So this type of horizontal scroll is not practiced in any other form of painting rather than in Chinese painting. It also requires the active participation of the viewer. So it requires both physical and mental participation, who decides at what place he will travel through the painting. So the painter needs both the physical and mental participation, a participation which is physical as well as mental. The Chinese painter does not want you to borrow eyes, he wants you to enter his mind. So what is the actual motive of the Chinese painter? The Chinese painter wants us to enter into their mind, not to look at only at the landscape picture, okay? He wants us to enter through their mind. The landscape is an inner one, a spiritual, a conceptual space. So that means the landscape created by the Chinese artist, it has some spiritual value, it has some inner concept, and it has some abstract representation. So we can see in this story there is a contrast between the Chinese painting with the European painting. So there is a contrast between Chinese painting and the European painting. We can see that the Chinese painting, it is much more alive than the European painting. It is much more spiritual, but though European painting, it has some real view. Okay? So any question, any queries, please ask. I have completed up to page number 35. In my next class, I would continue with this chapter. Okay. Thank you.